good morning from you. Welcome to the University of Applied Sciences here in Hamburg. One welcome without the microphone, and the next welcome with microphone, so it's on tape now. So welcome again. My name is Schaefers. I'm a PhD student here, and I set up a Center for Demand-Side Integration here at the University of Applied Sciences, which is currently working on 3 different projects concerning virtual power plants and smart grids. They all derived as follow-up projects from one rather successful research project that we did, which is entitled E-Island. And so I'm going to reflect on how we came to the situation that we have here at the University of Applied Sciences from where we started. So the project bears the title, or bears the title Smart Grid and VPP Research at the HAW, Hochschule für angewandte Wissenschaften. You know that term, University of Applied Sciences. That is CC4E. That's the Competence Center for Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energies. And there, at this CC4E, we have another center funded that is the Center for Demand-Side Integration. And what I'm going to speak to you about now is those 4 points, actually. The last two are rather small, but the first 2 are a bit longer. The first is, why do we need smart grids and virtual power plant concepts here in Germany? What's the underlying problem, actually? And with a little broader look to Europe that goes as well. And then I'm going to reflect on the experiences that we have done so far in the E-Island project. And that was about demand-side integration. So rather than the clustering of generators, we were researching the clustering of smart consumers, actually. And why we did that and to what conclusions we came, I'm going to tell you in a minute. And then after that, follow-up projects that derive from the E-Island project. And then conclusions and discussion, hopefully. But I think we're going to do the discussion in the end anyway, right? Whenever you have a question, just straight away, right? Interrupt me. Whenever something is unclear or I made a mistake or something, just interrupt me. Okay, why do we need smart grids and virtual power plants over here in Germany? What's the fundamental problem that we have? Well, the fundamental problem, and that's the problem that you encounter as well, is this, right? Without this, we wouldn't have that problem that we have to consider now. That's world human population. We've been less than 1 billion people up until 1800, and after that we went boom in the Industrial Revolution. And we will be something between 10 and 12 billion people by the end of this century, actually, which is quite a bit. And, well, it was enabled due to Industrial Revolution, which was made able due to the concept of using very, very energy-dense fuels, right? Stone coal in the start, and then oil and gas after that. Is it working? Oh yeah, it is. Great. Okay. What does that lead us to? It leads us to a huge amount of fossil energy consumption, with the problem of fossil fuels running out in the not so far away future, except for coal maybe, and second, having lots of CO2 in the atmosphere that we don't want to have there due to the climate change that we get. This is the World Energy Agency's outlook of what we will encounter in the upcoming decades in terms of energy consumption. And you see here is a very, very tiny fraction of renewable energy only that they foresee in the coming decades, and the rest of the rising energy consumption due to the development in a lot of countries that speed up developing, and more people in the world in general needing more energy, leads us to having, in their outlook, rather more fossil fuel combustion and more CO2 in the atmosphere rather than less. A couple of countries are trying to steer against it. Germany is very, very strict political aims established in terms of changing this towards a very, very large portion of renewables. But that bears a problem itself, and I'm going to reflect on that. This is the development of renewable electricity generation as we've seen it in Germany in the last couple of years. We started in the 1990s with only a little different renewable generation than water. All the blue parts of that columns that you see here is electricity generation capacity. That's capacity, right? It's not the power that was actually generated, not the work, but only the capacity that is installed. So that is water. And then you see, well, a very, very large fraction there that we got over the last, say, 20 years coming from wind energy. Lots of wind generators are put up in Germany, a lot of generation capacity in the wind there. And here you see a steady rise, and it seems to be the same story as it was in the beginning with the wind that we have there with PV installments. So photovoltaics does the second revolution there in just the installed power. Now, this ends in 2009. By now, 2011, we have a little more than 50,000 megawatts installed in renewable capacity, 50 gigawatts. And the share by now is about 20% of the electricity consumption. So in the first half of 2011, we had a share of 20% of the electricity consumption coming from renewable generation, which is quite a bit. But the political aims are even higher. Stakes are that we will have 35% in only 10 years' time. So we have 20 now, and we are, well, seeing an evolution that leads us to having 35% electricity coming from renewables by 2020. And the political aim is to have 50% in only 10 years more. So it's about 15% in the next 10 years and another 15% coming from renewables up until 2030. That's the declared political aim. And if we go on in the development as is foreseen at the moment, we will have a situation in 2020, so only 9 years from now, that looks a bit like this. Now the blue column here is wind, and yellow still is PV installments. This is biomass, actually, mostly combusted in CHP. And here is water. And then here's a little red tiny bit, which is coming from geothermal. Now, what's interesting to see is that this, again, is installed power. So by the end of 2020, we will have approximately 111 gigawatts installed power coming from renewables. Just to remind you, at the moment we have a little more than 50,000 gigawatts installed renewable capacity. Now the question is, what's the demand? How much do we actually need, right? And this is what we actually need on a normal day. So here's a week in October 2009, and the red is the German demand. So this is Germany. And this is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you see the morning peak. Here's everybody comes home in the afternoons, which is on tele peak, right? Again, sleep, and then morning peak, afternoon peak. Here's the base load. So we have a constant base load during working days, you could say, not weekends, but during the working week of, say, 40 gigawatts. It's a bit more in winter, when it's dark. And you see in the weekend, well, we sleep a bit longer, right? We sleep a bit in. But then Saturday is quite busy. Then a long sleep in on Sunday. And in the evening here, everybody again in front of the telly. And our whole nation watches telly, Tatort, everybody watches that. So we have an evening peak there. And here Monday starts again, right? Now reflect on that in that week, we had an installed capacity of approximately 45 gigawatts generation coming from renewables. Not coming all at the same time, because depending on the weather, the one or the other side might or might not produce electricity, right? So what you have here down there is the actual production coming from renewables. Now the interesting thing to see is that the renewable production only reached a little less than 20 gigawatts on that weekend, on Saturday and Sunday. the demand was quite a bit higher. All right? So the share, the actual share here, was approximately 50% already on that weekend. Now what happened? The blue curve reflects the energy price at the European Electricity Stock Exchange. The problem that we have over here is that we have a lot of baseload power installed, and the baseload power production just goes every day, 24 hours, 365 days every year. Nuclear power plants, coal-fired power plants, stone coal, charcoal, right? They're just running, and you can't switch them off. They're running. It's very expensive to switch them off. So what actually the electricity companies do is, when they see a problem like that they are not able to sell the surplus power in the system that is there, is that they rather give it away for free, or that they pay you if you are able to take it up. So what you see here, the blue line actually reflects the electricity price, and you see that in the late evening there were situations where we had a zero price. This is the zero line here, zero baseline of the price. Price is here in euros per megawatt hour. And then on Sunday morning, when the demand was very low, but the renewable generation was very high, prices went negative. And you could earn 50 cents if you were able to consume a kilowatt hour of electricity. And we are going to have that recurrently. I'm going to show you in a minute. Because this is only a tiny share, but only a very, well, you could say low peak consumption situation, right? Here's a simulation done by the Fraunhofer IWIS of what the situation might be if we have, sorry, that's right, that's wrong there. That should be, it's supposed to be 35%. 35% renewables, and they put it against the baseline weather year of 2007. So they said, okay, we take the weather of 2007, and then we have a look at this curve and see, okay, what will we have in 2020? What's the installed capacity? And in that weather year, who is going to produce how much electricity? When? So they